Today we are going to begin a very important halacha, the second sif of this siman, Taf Reish Beites, which is, can a woman read the Megillah for a man, and could the man fulfill his obligation? We touched upon this in the past, and now we're going to be taking a session or two delving into this in depth. So the tour begins by quoting Rashi, which we already learned in Taisvus in Maseches Megillah and Daf Daled. Upeirush Rashi, Shemoitzias la'noshim. According to Rashi, women have the halachic ability to fulfill the obligation of men al yidei by reading the Megillah for them. Shemoitzias la'noshim yidei chayv vasim. That is according to the opinion of Rashi. However, Ubal halachas gedolos is kasev afagav shechayavos b'mikra Megillah einon moitzios la'noshim. The Bahag writes that even though women are in fact obligated in the reading of the Megillah, nevertheless, they cannot read the Megillah for men. According to Bahag, they cannot. The obvious question is why. We're going to learn about it. Ubal ha'iter zal kosov mistabir ki heichi dinoshim mezamnois la'atzmim ve'inam mitztarfos labirchos hazimun hachanami einan mitztarfos le'osoro lechatchila. While iter holds, he writes that it's logical to say that ki heichi, that just like women have the halachic ability to perform a zimun by themselves right before benching, etc., they could do that for themselves if it's just women, which is another halachic discussion in of itself. Mitzvah Hashem, we learn the halachas of benching. But even so, nevertheless, if they are sitting around the table with men, then they would not combine in the cheshbon, in the amount of people that are included in the zimun. So too, the same applies that they would not combine to 10 for laning of the Megillah. The Beis Yosef quotes the Gemara in Maseches Erechim that says, "Hakol kasherim likrois is a Megillah." Everyone is kosher, is able to read the Megillah and fulfill their obligation by doing so. What's that coming to include everyone? Lasuye nashim answers the Gemara. It's coming to include women. But time when the reason is mishum de ikar hanes haya al yedei isha, because the main miracle happened through a woman, aka Esther. That is the discussion. The Beis Yosef continues over here with more lamdus, more rishonim, different opinions. Any questions on these different opinions so far? Okay. In that case, we will proceed now to the Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch rules, and this is where things start getting very spicy. Spicy indeed. Echad HaKoyrei ve'echad HaShemeya min HaKoyrei yotzi yedei chayvaso v'hu sheyishma mipi mi shehu chayev b'kriyaso. Whether the Baal Koreh, the person reading from the Megillah, or whether the person listening to the Megillah reading, you're going to fulfill your obligation, assuming that you hear it from someone who is obligated to read the Megillah. Lefikach, therefore, im hayo hakoyrei, if the person who's reading the Megillah is cheresh, someone who's unable to hear, o katan, or a minor, a child, you hear the Megillah from someone who can't hear, or a child, o shota, or someone who is mentally challenged, hashaymei mimenu lo yatsa. Someone who hears it from these people did not fulfill their obligation. I'm going to throw out a question, and I want everyone to give an answer. What does the Shulchan Aruch hold at this point about women? What?
Where did the Rav stop reading from? From Asher Menu Lo Yatsa?
Yeah.
That's the last
No,
words.
yeah. What does the Shulchan Aruch hold?
Before the Yeshorim, it's mashma that women can be motzi men
Correct. Because the Shulchan, why is that so?
because of his language that he used
Right. What does he say?
on the other page. You
No,
got to
on
go
this
back
page, on
to
the
it
contrary. He says, therefore, if these three people read the
because he
Megillah for
doesn't
you,
list
you would.
women.
What? Say again?
Okay, go ahead.
What?
No, I said from the other page off from the
Exactly.
from the other page also was mashma that women could be yotze with
Why?
the yotzi men.
Why? Where's it there?
Look at the language,
Which line?
right? Echad hakar echad hashemea min hakara yotzi. V'hu sheyishma mipi mishu chayav b'kriyasa.
Right.
So right now we were saying that women are chayav in the kriya.
Perhaps you could say from there. I would say it's stronger from over here because he specifies the
Before the
Cheresh,
Yerushalmi.
Chotan, and Shoite. Only these three people. They can't hear the child, the mentally
Okay,
challenged
okay.
person. He doesn't say women.
I hear.
But either way you slice it, it's very easy for someone to learn the Shulchan Aruch for the first time and say, wait a second. Where does it? No, he doesn't talk about women. Only later on, continuing in the Shulchan Aruch, Shahanashim einam moitzios es hanashim. Some say that women cannot read the Megillah for men, cannot fulfill their obligation. So that's why there should be an emphasis over here that there are two different opinions in the Shulchan Aruch. There's what we call a stam and a yesh omer. The first opinion in the Shulchan Aruch is just saying that what? You're not mentioning women at all. Seems like it's fair game. It's fine. Second one is saying no. Comes along the Ramah and says, yesh omer. There are those who say, Imaisha koyre la'atzmo mivareches l'shmo Megillah she'ina chayavas b'kriya. Some say that if a woman is going to read the Megillah for herself, she would say the bracha of not al mikra Megillah, which is the typical bracha on the reading of the Megillah, but on l'shmaya Megillah, to hear the Megillah. She'ena chayeves b'kriyaso. So this is the first time we're seeing this concept that a woman would not be obligated to read the Megillah. First time we're seeing this. So you're going to see about this more, that there's a difference in the obligation of men and women. Men, for whatever reason have an obligation of kriya, of reading the Megillah. Women, their obligation is only hearing the Megillah. You'll ask a question. If men are obligated to read the Megillah, how come 99% of men don't? The answer is because when they hear the Megillah being read by another man, Shomeya Ka'ona, their listening is considered like reading, and therefore it's considered as if they're reading the Megillah themselves. However, this halachically manifests itself, excuse me, regarding this specific case, in which a woman would be unable to read the Megillah for a man because her obligation is not as strong. That's the whole Sif Beis in the Shulchan Aruch. Comes along the Magen Avraham. He cites a Bach at the end of the Siman who says, Bach pasuk de Hashamei min acheresh yotza b'diavad. The Bach paskins that if you heard Megillah from someone who is unable to hear, you would in fact fulfill your obligation post facto. It's not preferable, but it would still work. According to the Shulchan Aruch, it seems like it wouldn't work at all. The obvious question over here that could be asked on this second opinion, this Yesh Omer, and there are those who say, quoted by the Shulchan Aruch, that women cannot fulfill the obligation of men is, wait a second, what's the difference between a woman by Chanukah, technically she could light the menorah, say the brachas, cover her husband's obligation. The Ber Halacha over there in Siman Taf Reish Ayin Hey quotes the Gemara. He says Tavim over. It's not preferable. Gemara says the person should be cursed. Who does that? But nevertheless, it works.
Right.
Why over here, according to this second opinion in the Shulchan Aruch, does it not work at all? And also, which opinion do we hold like at the end of the day? Comes along the Magen Avraham and says, "V'lo dami l'ner Chanukah." Don't compare this to lighting the menorah. That a woman could do it. Siman Taf Reish Ayin Hey Sif Gimel. Look at the Magen Avraham over there. Sif Katan Dalet. Shiny Megilah dahavi kamoi kriyas Torah. Comes the Magen Avraham quoting the Smag in the beginning of Hilchos Megilah. Megilah is different. Megilah is like leaning from the Torah. Perish. What's the explanation? Comes the Magen Avraham quoting the Reimu Pasulam and Bnei Kavod Tzibur. Since the reading of the Megilah is similar to the leaning of the Torah, it's going to be invalid because of Kavod Tzibur. If a woman lanes, it is not considered respect to the congregation. It's not respectable. Lafikach. Again, I'm just translating words. I'm not trying to cause a lot of movements out there nowadays. I'm not trying to cause a tumult over here. I'm just translating the words in the Magen Avraham. This is what the Magen Avraham says, one of the great commentators on the page of the Shulchan Aruch. I'm not trying to cause a controversy. That's just what he says. Upsula mebnei kavod hatzibur. V'lachein afilu liyachid eina moitzia. So you'll say, wait a second. If the whole reason, at least according to the Magen Avraham quoting the Re'im, is that a woman cannot read the Megillah in public because it's not considered an honor for the congregation. So what about, could one woman read the Megillah for one man? The woman knows how. Her son's sick, her husband's sick, no one else is around. Comes the Magen Avraham and says, she cannot even read the Megillah for one man. Why? 2 words, low plug. Low plug means that when the rabbi said something because of a certain reason, even if that reason doesn't apply, nevertheless, the halacha still applies. Therefore, even though, according to this reason, we're going to see additional reasons we're going to see additional reasons as we continue. Spoiler over there. Spoiler alert. However, according to this reason, which is that it's not kavod hatzibur, it's not an honor for the congregation, you'll say that for one person it's okay. No, it's not okay. Because when they said the halacha that a woman cannot read the Megillah for a man, even if that reason doesn't apply, nevertheless it applies in all circumstances. And then at the end of the Magen Avraham, he says, look at what I wrote in Hilchos Kiddush, which we discuss over there, women and Kiddush. Now, comes along the next Magen Avraham and says, "Ubemidrash hanaelam ros, what's a zayir chadosh, maduras munkach." Kosov deloy ticker latzmo. She can't even read the Megillah for herself. Batishmo mehanoshim. Rather, she should hear the Megillah from men.
What's the chiyuv over there?
Over where?
By Rus.
Oh, yeah, no clue. I didn't look this up. Yeah. Comes along that
You have to go to the bathroom, you missed all 4 prakim.
What'd you say? What?
I said you have to go to the bathroom at that time. You go to the bathroom at that time, you missed the whole thing. It's 4 prakim.
Going to the bathroom when?
When they're reading Megillah's Rus.
Oh, Rus, yeah. I don't know if it has to do with Rus or not. I don't know. Comes along that Teres the
Kingdom is there that he's saying that.
Say again? What?
No, I'm saying I just would love to know what the chiyuv is. Like, is there a chiyuv just to read it, to be heard?
Well, I mean, according to what we just learned, the obligation is her for just to listen. There's no obligation for her to read. And therefore, she can't even read it for herself, which is a massive insight and chiddush, surprising stringency.
Okay.
Seem to be different opinions over here. The Teres Zakanim, for instance, over here, says that a woman could read Megillah for other women. That's according to the Rosh and Taisus. Also Kiddush. She could only say Kiddush for other women. That's a whole discussion we learned in Hilchos Kiddush, not for now. But comes along the...
Who is that? That's Rav Akiva Eiger?
No, that was the Teres Zakanim. He's quoting a Rosh.
That women can't be motzi men for Kiddush.
Yeah, I mean, we learned that already in Reish and Aleph a lot.
Yeah. We talked about it. We definitely talked about it. There's the whole movement out there. Yep.
Whole discussion about that. I think it's worthwhile to go through this Magen Avram over here. This, excuse me, the Machasisa Shekel. See what he comments. It's actually on the Zion Machasis. Rashi Svirle. Nashim Moitzias Anashim. According to Rashi, Maseches Erechin, women could read the Megillah for men. Midamer Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Nashim Chayavas make Megillah. Shafei Nayabos Ones. That's what the Vachulu is. Right? Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says women are obligated Megillah, they were in the miracle. Since they're obligated, therefore they could read the Megillah for men. Period. Furthermore, the Amina and Reish Erechin, it says in the beginning of Maseches Erechin, Akol Chayavim Mikra Megillah Vidim and Akol Leitzulim Leitzu and Nashim. It says that everyone is obligated Megillah, that's including women, as we saw in the Beis Yosef. Ubal halachas gedoylo is chaylik dein matzias lanashim. The Bahag argues, says that a woman cannot read the Megillah for a man. We already saw that also before in the Torah. Behavi Mordechai b'shem Ravya. Shehiz kim avalaga because also the Tanya b'seven nashim b'turas making Megillah. So Mordechai is quoting the Ravya, who agrees with the Bahag, who says that a woman cannot read for a man. It says over there. Nashim Peturos and Mikra Megillah. Surprisingly, it says in Tosefta that they are exempt from Megillah. What about Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi? How could you reconcile that statement? The Tosefta says that they are exempt from reading the Megillah, from Megillah, when Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says they're obligated in Mikra Megillah. How could you reconcile that? And it says over there, Noshim Chayavois, Bimashma, Megillah, Shechayavos Lashma, the difference is no. They're only obligated to listen to the Megillah, not to read the Megillah. When Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said Noshim Chayavos Megillah, he's referring to they're obligated to listen to the Megillah. And when the Tosefta said that women are patudos from Mikra Megillah, they're exempt from Mikra Megillah, that's referring to reading the Megillah.
If this was the Gemara would ask
consequently explains the Machasisa Shekel beautifully. A woman whose obligation is lower than the obligation of a man cannot read the Megillah for a man who is obligated to read the Megillah himself. Everything is coming to include women. So that means that a woman could read the Megillah for another woman. And since the pasuk dein chayavos b'kriya rak b'shmiya, and since he said that they are not obligated, since he said they're not obligated to read the Megillah, only to hear the Megillah, that's why they cannot read the Megillah for a man or a man. That's what the Ravya rules over there afterwards. The Noshim Mevarchin Lishmaya Mikra Megillah. They make the bracha Lishmaya Mikra Megillah, velo al Mikra Megillah, not al Mikra Megillah. Daha in Chayavim Bekriya, because they are not obligated to read the Megillah. Fundamental difference between men and women. Questions, comments before we continue?
Yes, I'll go after David if David has anything.
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay, the way I guess that it was brought down the Machsa Shekel, that it means, the Shva HaMegillah. If that was a Gemara, the Gemara would have asked right away, but it says Mikra, and then that would have slugged it up and they would have gone to another teretz. Because it obviously says Mikra.
Does Mikra mean you have to read the Megillah? or Mikra, you listen to the reading of the Megillah.
If you wanted to say listen, then use the word shama. Use the word mikra.
Perhaps. It could just be referring to the reading of the Megillah in general. The Mikra Megillah. Nevertheless, whether you like that answer or not, this is his Ashita. This is how he goes. This is how he slices it. Or else, I'll throw a question back at you. How are you going to reconcile Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi and the Tosefta? Right? Everyone knows the statement of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. But the Tosefta says they're exempt. How are you going to answer that question? What?
Hold on. So we're Nashim Chayvas Mikra Megilah, right? But that's the Gemara in Erechim, right? And also Megilah.
Yeah.
And then where's the
right over here? Hello, you.
Hakol. That's the
you Nashim Paturas Mikra Megilah.
I'm sorry. I would think between the Tosefta, and the Mishnah or the Gemara, right? That should win.
How you gonna answer that question? It says in the Tosefta that she's exempt. Right there. What?
It still doesn't explain Mikra. It's just a Shmoa. That's.
Yeah. I don't know. How would you answer that? Moving right along. The Levush, the Talmud Muvak, the student of the Rama himself, pipes in over here and really says what I already said outside. I was indirectly quoting the Levush. But women cannot read the Megillah for men. You know why, says the Levush? Their obligation is not strong enough to read the Megillah for men and fulfill their obligation, as we just saw. They wouldn't combine to 10. Comes along the Eliya Raba and says, ordinarily. You know a difference between Ner Chanukah, in which a woman could fulfill the obligation for a man, and Megillah, which she can't, according to the Yeshom and those who say second opinion in the Shulchan Aruch. Ordinarily, the shiny Megillah is different. Women are not obligated to read the Megillah like men, rather only to listen. Conversely, by the Ner Chanukah, women are equal to men in the mitzvah. They have an equal obligation. That is the extra insight from the Levush and the Eliya Raba. Let's go a little out of order. We're going to go straight to the Caf Hachaim. Caf Hachaim has a tremendous amount of insight on these halachas. First of all, he begins in Ozayin first thing you got to know about Megillah, when you show up, you have to have the intention, I'm about to fulfill my obligation from the reading of the Megillah. That's the first thing you have to have in mind, and the person reading the Megillah has to have intent to cover and fulfill the obligation of everyone else. If there's a lot of noise in the shul and commotion, and you're still really focusing, if you can fulfill your obligation, and therefore, if there's a lot of commotion and noise, everyone should take their own Megillah. And if you can't really hear, just read it yourself with the tzibur, with the congregation. B'diavad Paskins the Caf Hachaim.
That brings up a big point about, well, first of all, how much noise. Oh, we can't. No, it's not really to make noise, but you have to be careful. Like as far as speaking, you obviously can't speak during Megillah. But when does it become a hefsek if you start speaking Like if you start, leaning the Megillah yourself during the leaning, is it ever a problem with the hefsek, or speaking? Like you're not saying a full. You just have to make sure you're saying a full pasuk. All these things, right?
This is
Does
referring
that
to
make sense or not at all?
this is referring to that there's noise coming from other people who are making noise.
Noise.
So we're the Caf Hachaim over here is saying you got to be careful of that situation, and you have to be honest with yourself if you're hearing it or not. If you can't actually hear the Megillah being read, then you yourself have to read the Megillah. Have a kosher Megillah in front of you and read it until the noise stops, in which case then you just continue listening. That's what he's saying over here. In terms of if you yourself are going to talk in the beginning, in the middle of laning, that is not the simon. That's not what we're discussing about. He's talking about other people, and then you should just be cognizant of the fact to have your own Megillah. The top of Os Ches over here, he says, Al Kain b'diavad im shama ha-Megillah mecheresh ha-medaber ve'eino shomea. If you heard the Megillah from someone who can't hear but he's able to speak, Klal yeshlach tzor v'likrois. When you get home later, you should read the Megillah again. In order that you will fulfill your obligation according to all opinions. But you should not recite the new bracha when you get home. The cave on the ikaplug also came on hakil. Since there is a machloikis, there's an argument if you would in fact fulfill your obligation by hearing the Megillah from someone who cannot hear but can talk. We hold safik brachos hakil. A doubt on brachos, then you should be lenient and not say the bracha again. And therefore, as no someone whose ears are heavy, aka that he cannot hear so well, or he's not able to hear well from the person reading the Megillah because the person who's reading the Megillah isn't going loud enough. You should be careful. Yet again, same ruling to read the Megillah from a Megillah which is kosher, masibor, that will be with the congregation. Okay. Does everyone have to go now, or in like 3 minutes?
3 minutes is good.
What?
Where's it brought down about making noise?
Okay, so let's finish this. I'll answer questions after 3 minutes. I want to finish this. I want to finish this to get the flow, and then the noise we're going to learn at the end of the Siman Emir Hashem. V'orchos chayim kosu b'sheim bal hadibrois atam de'inoshim moitzias anoshim. The Orchos Chaim quotes the Baal Dibros, who says the reason why women cannot fulfill the obligation of men is mishum de kol be'isha erva. Because kol isha erva. All right. What does that mean? That means that there's a problem of listening to a woman sing. So according to the Orchos Chaim, there's a problem with a woman who is reading the Megillah. Perhaps because there's trup involved. It's not exactly singing, but it's not exactly speaking either. It's somewhere in between. You'll say, but how could she light the menorah and say a bracha? Lo dummy, that's incomparable. You don't need men to be there. Just one, just her husband. That's it. Over here, there's a lot more people. Furthermore, like a king bracha over there by the menorah. There's only one bracha. Over here, it's a long lane. It's not just a bracha. It's longer. All of this is according to the second opinion in the Shulchan Aruch, who said that women cannot read for a man. But according to the first opinion in the Shulchan Aruch, who said that you could that a woman could read the Megillah for a man, there's no problem over here of kol ish, of hearing of a woman's voice, because it's not a song. Now, who says that? Who else says that a woman cannot read the Megillah for a man? Yodalit. The Levush rules this way. The Eliya Raba rules this way. The Pri Chodesh rules this way. The Ishel Avram rules this way. And he says that the halacha is like the second opinion because the first opinion doesn't explicitly say in the Shulchan Aruch that a woman could read the Megillah for a man. Halacha ki yishayimrim given the ladei rishonein mefurish beheded the mosiyas hayin sham b'chin kasav b'tshuvas beis David. To call heicha shaloi perish Shulchan Aruch beheded b'dei rishonein v'kasav yishayimrim the da'asil lives okay yishayimrim. Also, the Sefer Beis David says, the Shal Shuvas Beis David says that in a situation of it, when the Shulchan Aruch doesn't explicitly rule like the first opinion and writes in a second opinion in a way of Yesh Omrim, there are those that say The halacha will go, the intention of the Shulchan Aruch is to rule like the second opinion. Those who say, V'chein pasuk derech chaim, that's the derech chaim rules. V'im kain, and if that's so, since we have an argument regarding this, im shama mina isha sarach likrois v'likrois kedei lasis alibu dekumi alma v'ali yavarach mishum dekaim lan tzavik yibarach l'hakel. Therefore, Paskins, the Caf Hachaim rules that if you did in fact hear Megillah reading from a woman, you would need to return and read the entire Megillah again in order to go according to all opinions. However, you would not recite a bracha because we hold that a doubt on a bracha, you would be lenient. Just want to also just share what he says over here. In a pressing situation, he says, if you have a person and he doesn't know how to lane, he doesn't know how to read the Megillah, and the woman is the only one around, and she knows how to read the Megillah, and no one else is around, you could rely on those who hold that the gam isha that a woman could read the Megillah for a man. Mihu, however, if it occurs to you that you find a man after who knows how to read the Megillah, you should return and hear it from the man. If that person who's going to read the Megillah for you already fulfilled his obligation, lo yivarach al kriyah, so do not make a bracha on that reading. Since some say that what? That you already fulfilled your obligation when you heard it from the woman. And then according to Caf Hachaim over here, he says that one woman should not read the Megillah for many women. That's not good. Also, a woman who cannot hear should not read the Megillah for other women as well. And lastly, he says that okay, that's basically that's all we need to see. That is this. If any questions or comments.
Mishnah. Yeah, when you have a Mishnah versus Tosefta, which wins?
Usually a Mishnah wins. Tosefta didn't make it into the Mishnah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Why? Oh, because the Mishnah says it's kosher. Yeah, the Mishnah says it's kosher. Yeah, but nevertheless, if we could try to reconcile,
understood.
So that there's no contradiction between Tosefta and Mishnah, then we should.
He's trying to
reconcile. Anyways, so tomorrow we're going to continue this, and we're going to try to figure out halachah l'mais at the end of the day. But at the end of today's session, after learning a lot of in depth about this and many reasons why a woman cannot read for a man, at the end of the day, realize that the Caf Hachaim seems to lean towards the side that it would work. However, if you could then hear the reading again, you would hear it again, but without a bracha. And it's even questionable, even post facto, if it would work. But it seems like in a pressing situation, he wants to lean and say that it's okay. We're going to have to see how the Mishnah Berurah himself rules, and others that will be tomorrow. Mitzvah Hashem. Everyone should have a wonderful day. Brachim to you.
All right. Take care. Shkai.
Write a note